She's an internationally acclaimed, award-winning investigative journalist who I know many of you have seen on national television because she makes numerous appearances there. She's married to a wounded warrior. She has appeared on stage all over the country and done many, many events for the ACU, is highly acclaimed as a speaker and a journalist. But she's a little bit nervous today because this is the first time she's ever appeared on stage with me. Please join me in welcoming Sara Carter.
I was a little nervous when I heard it was Charlie. Thank you. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. I love being here in Pennsylvania. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a great state. What a beautiful state and such great people. I have a funny story. I was telling someone, I was actually telling my good friend Jeffrey Lord, who's over there, about Pennsylvania and how it came full circle for me. In 2016, I remember being in New York City, and I was this was before the election was called. Obviously, early on, the New York Times had said Hillary Clinton was going to win by, 95%. There was no way Donald Trump would ever be president. I went to the Trump victory hotel party with all the other journalists, and the majority of them were crying, and they were like, I don't really want to go to Javits. I don't want to be sitting here. This is going to be a horrible night. Why can't I be with Hillary? She's going to win. And I remember just sitting there, and I talked to, do you remember that guy from Showtime? He does circus. I can't remember. You know who I'm talking about? He wears a cowboy hat. He does documentaries, Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy. And he comes up to me, and he says, Sara Carter, who do you think's going to win tonight? And I said, well, I have no doubt Donald Trump's going to win. And he laughed at me, and he said, well, why do you think that? I said, well, I was in farm country in Pennsylvania, and everywhere I looked, I saw Trump Pence. Everywhere I looked. And he said, well, you can't hinge an election. You can't hinge an election on some farm country in Pennsylvania. Oh, really? Yes, I can. You know why? Because Pennsylvania is real America. And if anything I learned as being a journalist is to listen to real people, not people living in a bubble, not people, and I say this over and over again, I even say it on my podcast, who don't even know what a gallon of milk costs. They completely forgot. They forgot what it costs to put gas in a car. They don't know what it's like to have to feed kids. They don't know what it's like to take your dog to the vet and get charged too much money. They don't know what it's like to pay a mortgage on a house when you've lost a job. They don't know what it's like when you go to the feed store and then it's closed because of COVID and you can't even get any seed for your garden to plant your own garden because the governor won't let you go there because he's made that non-essential. Because he doesn't care about real people. He doesn't care about you. He has forgotten who he is working for. Right? And I will close up my story on Pennsylvania with this. That night, as I was in the hotel and everybody was expecting Hillary to win, and by the way, that guy from Showtime left and went to the Javits Center. He said, see ya, loser, and he left. I sat down with all the other reporters who were desperately looking like they just wanted to jump off of this podium and run out for their dear lives. And we were watching the election results come in. And when Pennsylvania hit, and we saw Pennsylvania go to Donald Trump, I gotta tell you, look, I was gonna cover the story whoever won. At that point, I was gonna cover the story whether it was Hillary Clinton. I didn't have anything vested in this. This is up to the American people. It's up to all of us. That's what makes our nation so great. It's elections, right? It's a peaceful transition of power. We might not like who's in power, but we accept it and we work together as Americans and we find common solutions and we get those solutions and we make a difference. When I turned around and looked at those reporters as the election was being called, and they were literally crying, tears streaming down their, I gotta tell you folks, I was laughing. Not because Trump won, but because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I just never in my life witnessed anything so ridiculous, so out of place, so wrong. I was just like, wow, we know who you wanted to win. So I asked my cameraman, do you mind? Could you take a picture? And he took a picture, and I have this great picture of me smiling with them crying behind me. It's like my favorite thing. So thank you, Pennsylvania. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But it was during that time that something was really rotten in Denmark. It was rotten in Washington, D.C. And it wasn't about President Trump. I want to be clear here. They don't hate, and I'm talking about those folks that we all know about that I covered, former deputy director fired, Andrew McCabe, former FBI Director James Comey, Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I don't even need to ask you to boo, because you already know who to boo, right? All of these cohorts in crime, they weren't angry at President Trump. They were angry at you. Hillary made it perfectly clear when she called you deplorables. She did. I never in my life thought that American politicians would finally just show their real faces, right? They just despised Americans who were willing to vote for President Trump, so much so, not because he was Trump. They didn't mind partying with him in New York. Don't be fooled. All of these people in Washington, D.C., before he even ran for president, they would give an arm and a leg to be invited to his parties in New York City. Oh, I was at Trump Tower. Oh, yes, I spoke with Melania. She's lovely. Oh, look at me. I'm friends with the Trumps. As long as he stayed in his place. What they didn't want was somebody who wasn't involved in their establishment games. They couldn't control him. And they knew he was an uncontrollable element. He was not somebody that would play ball with them because he would say, well, wait a minute. Why can't we move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? Why not? You guys keep promising that every year, year after year. Every politician I know says, oh, we've got to move that embassy. We've got to recognize Jerusalem. Yeah, we do. And then as soon as they get into office, they're like, yeah, you know what? We don't want a war in the Middle East. Hello, Abraham Accords, right? Who's put us at war? I want to bring this up because a lot of people, thank you, a lot of people ask me, it's very personal for me. My husband is a wounded war veteran. He is, thank you, he and the men and women like him are my real heroes. They are my heroes. I was out there on the battlefield with them covering their stories for years. And I can tell you that there is no greater nation on earth and no greater people on earth than our troops and what they are willing to sacrifice for their country. We're talking today about America versus socialism. There is a reason why my husband, even after September 11th, multiple deployments to Iraq, multiple deployments to Afghanistan, Kosovo, Somalia, his life defending our country, along with those men and women that he served with. It wasn't just about getting the bad guys and the terrorists. It was ensuring that our nation would remain safe and free. It was about the fundamental principles that our nation stands on. We can't forget that. Last night, my husband's guide dog, my husband was wounded in Afghanistan, in eastern Afghanistan. He was actually fighting a terrorist. A grenade was lobbed over his head. He should have lost his life. He lost both of his eyes. He lost his eyesight completely. And he came back home to his family. And even after all of that, we had a little girl, Annalise, and she is now 8 years old. She's awesome. She's amazing. And my husband, for the first time, here's this guy, you know, special ops, Delta Force. Everybody loved my husband. He could do anything. Marty can do anything. Here's my husband, and he's walking into walls. He can't see a thing. He doesn't know if he's going to live. This was when he was at Walter Reed. And then he takes a deep breath one day, and he and I were talking in the hospital, and I said to him, you know, would you do it again? And he's like, absolutely, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I would do anything for this country. He would. That's the kind of man he is. Thank you. He deserves it. Thank you. Wow, you guys are, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let him know. He wished he could have been here. Every time I go to vote, every time I see what's happening to this nation, you know what goes through my head? We have to be warriors too. We can't stay silent when the left and these Marxist radicals have embedded themselves into our schools, into our lives, into our government, so much so that if we even say a word of patriotism for this great country, they almost ostracize us. Like we're bad, like we're evil, like there's something wrong with us. How did this happen? How did it flip on us? How did we allow this to happen? Right. We were quiet. We're good people. We don't want to fight with anyone. We don't want to go down the street and riot. We don't want to tear apart our cities. We don't want to tear apart our businesses. We want to build each other up. So when we see people that want to destroy things, when we see people that try to manipulate our children and manipulate them in school and tell them, oh, you're a victim. You need to get out there. You need to take it back. You need to do whatever you can. And they teach them to destroy instead of build. And they don't even know our history, good and bad, good and bad. Nobody is perfect and no nation is perfect. No nation. I've traveled the whole world, and what I have seen, this is the greatest nation on planet Earth, and we can still get better. We can still get better. I know I was going to talk about all the stories I've done and the work I've done and, you know, the Russia hoax, and I know you've all seen the last 4 years and how it's evolved. I'm so sad and disappointed because people should be indicted and people should be held accountable. Right. We should not be a nation with a two-tier justice system. Those people in Washington work for you. They work for me. We are not their servants. They are our servant. They work for us. We pay them, and we will fire them when they don't do their job, right? I'm going to tell you that I'm going to keep fighting, that I'm not going to stop fighting for you and for me and for my children and for my amazing for my amazing husband and everything that he's done for our country, and for all those soldiers from the very dawn of our nation that stood up and shed their blood for this country. I'm not going to be silent. I'm not going to let anyone steal my country from me. I'm not going to let them, because I guarantee you there is no other place on earth that is like this nation. I swear to you that. And no matter who goes into office, I'm still going to love this country. But I tell you this, I'm not going to let anyone steal it. That is just unacceptable. Thank you. I love you guys. You guys are soldiers. All right, you know what? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be a part of this with you today. Thank you for being such an awesome state. I love Pennsylvania. I hope to come back again soon. You're the best. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Jeffrey.